Today I woke up with a very heavy heart for what seemed like no reason, and then I remembered what it could be. About a month ago, I spit into a tube and sent my DNA to ancestry.com, and then a few weeks ago I got my test results back, only to find out that I have been fucked out of $35. I could have used that $35 for something good, not to confirm something I already knew. I could have spent that $35 on a single Colleen Hoover book. I could have spent that $35 on an Uber Eats order, a single carton of eggs. I could have spent that $35 on something important, but I spent it on something I already knew. Ooh. Aww. Yeah, so in all seriousness, I took the DNA test and I got back that I'm 98% West African and 2% European. And it had me thinking. I already knew I was black. I didn't think I was this black because a lot of what I've been hearing from my family is that all these different things. And I believed them like an idiot. I know African Americans have a history of lying about our genetic ancestry, about our racial background, because we're so ashamed to have West African ancestry. But I digress. But also, on my dad's side of the family, he's Nigerian from Nigeria, and my grandfather looks like this. I don't think I'll have a picture of him, but this is what he looks like dead ass. So either somebody in my family's lying, or Ancestry DNA is a load of horseshit. Maybe both. And also in like the traits, there's a section where they have like your personality traits, and of the 81 that they measured for, 17 of them were just like not even like kind of wrong, but dead wrong. What was one? Oh, there's one that said like I don't have dimples. I have dimples. I have dimples. I saw, let me find it. So from what I'm reading, it says that I have a cleft chin. It says that I'm more likely to be determined. I am the most uninspired person you will ever meet. You'll almost be shocked that I even made it this far in life. It says that I am less likely to like to do things alone. So I say all of that to say that maybe it's not completely accurate. And I'm okay with that, honestly. What my results were and how they align with how I perceive myself doesn't really matter to me. I know it matters to a lot of people, especially those for people who are adopted, for people who just want to find out more about their ancestry. I've honestly never really been that curious, and I just took what my family said like at face value, and allegedly they're lying. Maybe they're not, and it's just inaccurate. But listen, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in my spit. And the reason why I took this test is because it was 80% off. There was a holiday deal, like why was I not going to take it? Other people take these tests, to find a sense of identity within themselves. And I completely understand why.
Americans, they don't know where they're from, What Africa are you from?
I'm from America. That's what we're saying. Just like Jamaica. Just like no. Wait, where you from? I'm American. From New York. No, country.
So being African American is a valid identity within itself, but some people can't really seem to wrap their heads around that. And if they can, they cannot stand it. They hate the fact that people are content in the fact that they are African American. And so in turn, a lot of African Americans, and I want to make this distinction very clear, African American is what I'm talking about, not black. There's an overlap, but they are not the same. A lot of African Americans suffer from racial identity crises because what it means to be black in the United States is very ambiguous and also has very negative connotation. Now, while I can recognize the ambiguity and negativity that comes with being African American, I don't particularly feel it as much as I should, even though I should be the perfect candidate for racial or ethnic dysphoria, because both of my parents are racially the same, but they're two different cultures. And I also didn't go to a school or live around other black people, so I was always one of the very few. It was always me and like at most 5 other kids in my class, my whole grade, in my whole school that were black. I easily could have gone down a very dark path of self-hatred, and I think I have to accredit that to my parents, say is that they were very, very open about our racial identity. They did not, drink the Kool-Aid when it came to anti-blackness. And I think it's because my father is from Nigeria, which is quite literally the motherland, and my mother is from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, which is like one of the blackest neighborhoods in the entire country. So they just never really passed down that internalized anti-black sentiments onto me. And even though the media, the books, the stuff I did, it tried, it just never really got into here. And for that, I'm grateful. I've never really felt uncomfortable with my natural hair. That's a lie. I just lied. I'm sorry. I have never touched any skin bleaching cream, at least on purpose. I don't know what the hell this was. Never also complained about how black people don't like me because I speak proper and
I don't listen to that ghetto hood trap music. I'm not like those other black people. They don't like me.
I cannot stand those bitches. I can't. Like, shut up. Maybe the reason that other black people don't like you is because you're a loser. Have you ever thought about that? You're a loser who thinks you're better than other people. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I am African American. I am black. That is something that I've accepted. Period. The end. If I had to describe how I felt about my African American heritage, I would say that I won. There were many battles. Overall, I think I would say I won the war against anti-blackness. And a lot of people can't say that. Everybody clap for me. Everybody clap. I say that all to say that I'm very lucky to be confident and comfortable in my African American identity, despite my circumstances, because a lot of people are not like that. And unjustifiably so. A lot of African American history, it's rooted in oppression. It was not inevitable, and it was not naturally cultivated. It was forced and completely avoidable, and this oppression was reinforced by the people around us. But it is so ingrained and permeated in every single aspect of not only our culture, our lives, our subconscious, and the way that we think. It is omnipresent that the subjugation of African Americans, that the demeaning of African Americans, the dismissal, the sidelining of African Americans is like the norm. It's hard for a lot of us to reckon with the fact that African Americans, who we are at our foundation, is a result of oppression that was only made illegal 61 years ago. My grandma's older than that by an entire decade. 500 years of anti-blackness that is backed by Western governmental powers that be and were. That is dangerous. And not only to African Americans, but toward everyone. Anti-blackness is so dangerous that we don't even need white people to perpetuate it anymore. What do you mean? I can't leave the house if my edges aren't done. You can't leave the house without your hair looking the way it does naturally? What do you mean you're not attracted to women of your own race? And listen, you have your preferences. I'm not vying for the attention of somebody who's not even looking twice at me. But like, really think about why you haven't found a single black person attractive when you are a black person. I have no racial preferences. I'm not sitting here trying to be Dr. Umar, but if you as a black person, and I can't speak for other people of color, but if you as a black person cannot find a single person that is within your race that is attractive, look inward, because it's not them, it's you. Anti-blackness is so dangerous that people who aren't even black experience anti-blackness. Anti-blackness is so dangerous that there are some people who will swear up and down that they are not racist, but cannot understand why they don't like their one black coworker.
He's just, I don't know, I don't like him. I don't know why. He just gives off bad vibes.
You're almost there. Anti-blackness is so dangerous, but it makes the world go round. And being African American, having roots in a country where we are not the dominant or majority group, it causes a lot of internal conflict. It's the reason why we have Hoteps and Hebrew Israelites who claim that they have no African ancestry, and actually they're aliens who were sent to Earth by God or something bullshit like that. So taking in all of that, it makes perfect sense why a lot of African Americans have this complex where they don't want to claim any West African ancestry. They're trying to distance themselves. When I say they, I mean, like, I don't experience this. I'm talking about other African Americans. I'm not like denying my own African American experience. That's what I mean when I say they. It makes perfect sense why a lot of African Americans seem like they want to distance themselves from their African American experience. And on top of that, African Americans don't have the best reputation in the world. The media does not represent us very well. And so a lot of people want to distance themselves from their African American history, from their Black history, from their African history. And I think it's really interesting if you put it into perspective. Take, this ambiguous African American identity. Take this as opposed to, like, let's have Sally. There's Sally, who was born in LA, and she's ethnically fully Japanese. And she goes to Japan a few times a year to visit her family, and she visits where her great times 10 granny used to hang out, and she knows how to speak Japanese, and that is her. She is Japanese. There's Tommy, who grew up in Norway. He speaks Norwegian. He's ethnically Norwegian, and there is no complication there. His entire family for thousands of years was birthed and died in Oslo. And then we have Tiffany,
who was born in LA, but her family's from New York, but they immigrated from Florida and Panama during the Reconstruction era post-slavery. Also claim that they have ethnic roots in Native Panamanian and also Native American, and then some European ethnicities as well. But their ethnic roots are uncertain, most likely West African, and small traces of European. None of the cultures in which she knows the language has ever traveled to. And that's just her mom's side. Then there's her dad's side, who's from Nigeria, and he's ethnically Nigerian, but his dad is racially ambiguous, with his origins also being a mystery. So Tiffany doesn't know the language from Nigeria, in part to Igbo being a dying language, and then also in part to just paternal negligence.
That is just a scenario I came up with on the spot, not relatable to me at all, but is one that's also very common for a lot of African American. It's hard to reckon with or wrap our head around an ambiguous racial identity, especially a racial and ethnic identity that makes you a minority in your own home, in your own home country, especially an identity that is rooted in such darkness and sadness. But with everything, there's a silver lining. I think a lot of African Americans should find a lot of comfort and empowerment in the fact that we are invisible and ambiguous, yes, but when you're invisible, you can disseminate. When you're invisible, you can be everywhere. Let me explain. When I went to China in 2018, I was in the mall with my host sister, and then she went off to go shopping somewhere, like in one booth. So I was just like by myself, just like looking, and then this teenage boy came up to me, and he had like 5 cornrows in his head, and then he looks at me and he goes, "We have the same hair." And he's like, "We have the same hair, like we look the same." And I'm like, "Okay." And then he says, like, "I've never met a Black person before, can I have a picture?" And I'm like, "No." And then he left me alone. But the fact that he's never met a Black person before and he has 6 cornrows in his head is just like, we're everywhere. There's some kid in Idaho right now who probably only knows by name 3 Black people, just planted his American flag into Tyler the Creator's discography. We're everywhere. Even in West Africa, you're from Nigeria, Lagos, born and raised. You lived in Nigeria all your life, talking about, man, you tripping. We're everywhere. Popular fashion, even not so popular fashion, slang, and I'm just getting started. Food. Oh, don't get me started. I already did. I already started. But we're everywhere. I sound crazy, but it's true. We are literally everywhere. We can get into conversations about cultural appropriation and the haunting lack of compensation that African Americans receive for this exchange, for this unconsensual global cultural exchange. It's not even really an exchange because we haven't gotten shit back. But I would argue that African American culture is the dominant global subculture. Walk with me. There is dominant culture, which is like the Western pseudo-European culture, and there's a subculture, the dominant subculture, which is us. And I think more African Americans need to remind ourselves of that. We need to embrace that. We're everywhere.